In this video, we take a closer look at the life of John D. Rockefeller and explore the reasons behind his enormous success. His early jobs, like working as a clerk and seeing his father struggle as a traveling salesman, influenced him to become an entrepreneur and strive for success. By learning about Rockefeller's upbringing, education, and early influences, we can gain a better understanding of the man who built an oil company worth trillions of dollars. So, let's start the video as we uncover the story behind how Rockefeller built his trillion-dollar oil company, the most influential figure in history. Also, be sure to watch the video until the end so you don't miss out on Rockefeller's impact on the modern business world. The rise of the oil industry. Back in the late 1800s, something big happened. The oil industry took off in a big way, changing the way economies and places looked all over the world. It all started with Edwin Drake, who figured out how to drill for oil commercially in 1859 in Titusville, Pennsylvania. This discovery got a lot of people interested in finding oil, and it became a big business. John D. Rockefeller was one of the people who saw the potential in oil, and he became really important in the industry. As more and more people started using oil for things like lighting and fueling cars, Rockefeller found ways to make the oil business more efficient, which made it cheaper. He used things like pipelines and new ways of making steel to make it easier to get oil and turn it into useful things. Founding of Standard Oil. Back in 1870, John D. Rockefeller and his colleagues, Samuel Andrews, Henry Flagler, and Stephen V. Harkness, started a company in Cleveland, Ohio called Standard Oil. Their goal was to bring some order to the oil industry, which was in disarray at the time. They wanted to consolidate the many small oil refineries that existed under one big company. Rockefeller had a smart idea. Instead of having many small companies doing different parts of the oil refining process, he wanted to create one big company that would control everything from beginning to end. He used some tricky tactics, like making deals with other companies and manipulating prices, to make Standard Oil the biggest and most powerful oil company in the world. In the next part of this story, we'll learn about how Rockefeller's ideas changed the way the oil industry worked. Horizontal integration. John D. Rockefeller was a businessman who transformed the oil industry with his revolutionary idea of buying up other oil companies instead of making his own. By doing this, he was able to eliminate competition, save money by combining resources, and become the leader in refining oil across the United States. Rockefeller's company, Standard Oil, became so powerful that it was able to control prices and distribution channels, making it hard for other companies to compete. He later took this idea one step further by buying up other parts of the oil production process as well. This changed the industry in a big way, and we'll explore this more in the next part. Vertical integration. John D. Rockefeller was the man who changed the oil industry forever. He did this by controlling everything related to the production of oil, from getting it out of the ground to delivering it to customers. Rockefeller understood that relying on others to provide the things his company needed was inefficient and risky. So he bought oil wells, pipelines, trucks, and even gas stations. By doing this, he made sure that everything his company, Standard Oil, needed was under his control. This strategy helped Standard Oil become very efficient and profitable. By cutting out the middlemen and working together within the company, Rockefeller was able to save money and make more profit. And by owning everything he needed to make and sell oil, he didn't have to worry about what other people were doing. Rockefeller was a very smart businessman, and his plan worked very well. Today, we can still see the effects of his ideas on the oil industry. If you want to learn more about how he did it, stay tuned. Business tactics and strategies. Rockefeller was a brilliant businessman who built an incredibly powerful company. He did this by using some sneaky tactics that helped him beat his competitors. One thing he did was lower his prices to make it hard for other companies to compete with him. Then, when they couldn't keep up, he raised his prices to make more money. He also made deals with railroads to get cheaper transportation for his oil, which gave him an advantage over other companies. And he even gave secret discounts to his biggest customers, which made it tough for smaller competitors to sell their products. All of these things helped Rockefeller's company become incredibly successful. We'll talk more about how he used the power of his company to change the oil industry next. Standard Oil Trust. The creation of the Standard Oil Trust was a big moment in business history. John D. Rockefeller set up this trust in 1882 to deal with legal and regulatory pressures. The trust brought together various companies under one big company. This allowed Rockefeller to be in charge of the whole oil industry. By controlling everything, he could decide how much oil to make, how to sell it, and for how much money. This helped Standard Oil to be very successful and make a lot of money. But people didn't like that Standard Oil was the only big company in the oil business. They thought it wasn't fair. So there was a big fight against Standard Oil. Eventually, the government passed laws to stop companies like Standard Oil from having too much power. This changed how businesses could operate and compete in America. Monopoly allegations and antitrust legislation. As Standard Oil became more and more powerful, people started to worry that it was taking over too much of the oil industry. They were scared that the company was using unfair practices to beat out its competitors, like making prices lower than they could afford and being aggressive. People were so upset that the government decided to make a new law to stop companies from becoming too big and powerful. Standard Oil was one of the main companies that this law was meant to target, and they had to go to court many times because of it. Finally, in 1911, the Supreme Court ruled that Standard Oil was breaking the law, and the company had to break up into smaller parts. This big decision changed the oil industry forever, and we'll talk more about how it all happened and what it meant. Dissolution of Standard Oil. In 1911, something big happened in the business world. Standard Oil was found guilty of breaking the rules that keep companies from getting too big and powerful. The courts decided that Standard Oil had to be broken up into many smaller companies to make things fairer. This was a huge change because Standard Oil had been a really big player in the oil industry for a long time. Breaking it up made it so other companies could compete too. Some of the new companies that were created are still around today, like Exxon and Chevron. This change was important because it meant that one company couldn't just take over everything. There had to be competition. But there's another part of this story that's important too. John D. Rockefeller was also known for giving away a lot of money to help others. We'll talk more about that later and how it made a big impact. Rockefeller's philanthropic legacy and lasting impact. John D. Rockefeller was a famous businessman and a great philanthropist who made a great impact on society. He founded the Rockefeller Foundation in 1913 and dedicated his life to improving human welfare through scientific research, public health initiatives, and education. His strategic giving, along with his business acumen, emphasized the importance of addressing societal needs. However, his controversial tactics in business, including the formation of Standard Oil and subsequent antitrust measures, still affect discussions on corporate power and regulation. His legacy raises questions about the role of monopolies, the need for antitrust laws, and the ethics of strategic philanthropy. As we explore Rockefeller's impact, we can learn from his experiences to better understand ongoing debates on corporate governance, market competition, and the responsibilities of wealth. Keep an eye out for more information on modern parallels and lessons we can learn from Rockefeller's legacy. Modern parallels and lessons. John D. Rockefeller's business strategies have similarities with modern companies such as consolidating businesses and controlling the supply chain. He used philanthropy to improve his image, similar to modern companies. However, his aggressive tactics serve as a warning about the dangers of unchecked corporate power. By learning from his successes and failures, today's business leaders can learn valuable lessons about effective management, ethical behavior, and the balance between innovation and responsibility. Overall, Rockefeller's story reminds us to be vigilant and accountable in the modern business world. So this was all about today's video. If you enjoyed watching the video, please hit a like button and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this.